Greeting and welcome to the Intensive Success Growth. I'm your host, Nishant Sharma. Please give warm welcome to our guest, Joseph. Joseph is a digital media app associate. So, welcome, Joseph.
Thank you for having me, Nishant. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, right.
There you go.
Okay, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you? Inspired you that you are doing what you do today?
uh, so when I was younger, I came from a sports family. I grew up in a neighborhood where I was fortunate to have a lot of friends. So we were always out and about playing sports. Now, when I was younger, I still have asthma, but when I was younger, even though I was kind of athletic, I was never a super athlete like my friends. A bunch of friends were taller, a couple were stronger, a couple went on to do different things. I had a couple of cousins who played sports, so everybody kind of played a little bit of everything. A little baseball, a little football. I come from a family that played hockey. When I was younger, I played basketball. So I had a passion for sports when I was younger, but also when you're young, you realize that you're not going to play sports, right? You're just not professional athlete material. So you look to do the next best thing. So whether that's writing and doing newspaper stuff, we live in a world now where we've seen a lot of technological advancement here over the last 10 years or so. And with that is different ways sports operates. So I went to school and I studied communications, and eventually that landed me a digital media role where I have bounced around at the companies that I have since I started and since I graduated college. But right now, my primary job is doing the digital media stuff, like you said, a digital media associate, as you will, a guy who just handles content and video content for NHL.com.
Wow, great. So, what's the reason? Why do people fail?
Why do people what?
Why do people fail?
Fail.
Yes.
Well, it's like anything else in life. You need the drive and you need a determination to do things. Now, I'm fortunate because even though what I do is essentially behind the scenes, and like my co-host and friend Nick, who will be joining us in a bit, um, he kind of does something similar. He's kind of works in broadcasting. So like anything else, like I said, it just matters. It comes down to your drive and your determination. And I and Nick have been fortunate where the jobs and the roles that we've worked in, we have been able to meet a bunch of other really great people, different people. So just because Nick and I are still building ourselves up and having interviews with all these people and getting to know them better, eventually, ultimately, what we're going to try to do is use the connections that we've made to springboard ourselves up. But for now, it's like I said, like anything else, you just got to want it. You got to really, really desire it. I'm very happy with what I do. Like I said, I know a lot of people who write for the website, and we know Nick and I know a lot of people who work on TV through the jobs that we've worked in. But like I said, obviously, we're not at that level yet. So hopefully we're going to use that as a springboard, and we'll continue using that drive and determination.
Okay. So, what's your company motto?
Motto. We don't really did you say motto or model?
What's your company motto?
Oh, the model.
Yes.
I mean, without getting too much into detail about it, I work for Disney Streaming. So Disney Streaming is essentially the platform that a lot of these major streaming services that you see today is built on. So just a quick history lesson. Disney streaming once upon a time, way back when, a couple years ago, was MLB AM, which was under the umbrella of Major League Baseball. Then it became BAMTech, and then Disney streaming. The Disney company bought out BAMTech a couple years ago. So what you see now with Disney Plus, with ESPN Plus, and like I said, the stuff that we do with NHL.com, all of that kind of falls under the Disney streaming umbrella. So yeah, so in terms of model, I just come from a company that and everybody that I previously worked with, essentially we handle content, and we are the middlemen and women for people who work for the NHL and the league. But I have former colleagues who have moved on to other jobs within the company with Disney Plus, like I said, with ESPN Plus. So now that they've changed over there, obviously the different role in the company, you handle different people. But essentially, like I said, our model is where we are placed in the company. We're essentially the middle people who handle the content for everybody on the corporate side of things, and for all the viewers and people who are consuming the content at home.
Okay. Who is your ideal client?
Client.
Yes, ideal client.
That stuff I don't handle. I don't handle the client work.
Okay.
I just handle the content. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you deliver 5-star client experience?
A client experience. Again, that's stuff that is not. We don't handle that kind of stuff. What would I do?
Okay, no issue. So how do you start your day?
How do I start my day? With a cup of coffee, like everybody else. So I say coffee, like I'm from New York. But that's if I work during the day. I work a neat job where I get to watch sports for a living. Told you once upon a time it was baseball, but now it's primarily hockey. So when I work kind of a blend of nights and days. So if I work during the day, I'll start usually 9 or 10 o'clock here. So I'll start my day with a cup of coffee. If it's later at night, I get myself situated. I'll eat dinner beforehand. And I have a second TV screen monitor set up in where I have my workstation. So using that second TV, that's where I'll put the games on and stuff. But primarily, like I said, there's not really too much prep work, only because you get to work in sports. It's fun work, which I'm very, very blessed with. So yeah, for Nick, for purposes of giving you a brief rundown about him, like I said, he does broadcast stuff. So he's the kind of person who's going out and recording content and shooting content and editing content, for his bosses and for everybody he's providing that for. So a little more hands-on, a little different. He's a little more of the creative one between the two. But we do have experience doing stuff like web editing and video editing and stuff like that.
Okay. What are you grateful for today?
Everything. Grateful for everything in my life. When you wake up in the morning, what are you grateful for? You're grateful for your health. You're grateful for great friends and family. You're grateful for the weather. Hopefully it's a nice day outside. But yeah, you just got to be grateful for everything. But as it applies to what I do in the interview, I'll go back and say what I previously said before, and that I met a lot of great people along the way. I met a lot of great people who write for the website, who you could see on TV and television, and they make appearances like that. So grateful that I've had the opportunity to be at the job that I've been in for a while, but grateful that I've gotten to meet some nice people along the way, some not famous people, but people who are well known in this area of the world and this industry and what we do. Yeah, so definitely grateful for that.
Okay. How young are you?
I'm 29.
Okay. You are
not afraid to share my age.
Okay. You are not 29 year young. You are 18-year young with 11-year experience.
Uh, well, 11's probably pushing it. We'll probably say closer to, I'll say 10. Yeah, it's actually not that bad. You know what it is? Because when I was in college, I did internships, but I did a really good professional internships as it relates to the field that I'm in. So even though I wasn't really working back then per se, or working a full-time job or anything like that, and um, in this industry, it's not really traditional, full-time. You're not going to find somewhere that's going to give you a very straight 9 to 5, 10 to 6, 11 to 7, 11 to 7, more traditional standard corporate type of job. It's like you got to work difficult hours, and you got to work, like I said, times I've worked days, times I've worked nights, times I've worked overnights, right? Stuff like that. But yeah, I'm fortunate that I have at least 8 to 10 years of good experience. And yes, I'm 29 years, soon to be 30 years young. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Who is your living mentor and what's the impact?
Living mentor. It's a good question. The more simple answer is I'll say my mom, only because I grew up in an environment where my mom and dad weren't in the same house. So my mom did a lot. And I was fortunate that my dad, when I was younger, he went and played sports. So I have all the stories like you typically have. But my mom was very, very super into sports too. And obviously living in two separate houses, um, when I was younger and I did sports, and I had to be driven to like practice or stuff, or she made like those little types of sacrifices there when she could. But as I got older, she's great to watch like baseball with. She's great to watch football with. She's great to watch hockey with. Like I said, obviously I worked for .com. So yeah, she's really into it. She's like a true fan. Uh, she's always the kind of person who says like, chase your dreams. And at a very young age, she realized I wasn't going to play sports, but she realized that I had a knack, and I had the brain for seeing and understanding what was happening in front of me. So she was like, you know what, you want to be a writer, be a writer. You want to host your own show, whether that's a podcast or a TV show. So like I said, she's kind of been the person who kind of kept the sports passion alive, and it was because of her and those words and saying like, oh, you should host this, that this whole podcast thing came about, right? So what Nick and I do is we host our podcast, which is called You Know I'm Right, and you can find us on all major platforms. So Apple, iHeart, Spotify, you can find us on YouTube. What we did is, again, what you said before, and you asked me the question about how grateful I am, grateful for the guests that we've had. The people that we've gotten to know in our lives are the people who we've been able to continuously do the podcast with and have all these guests on. So without my mom pushing me, none of that would have happened. So not really the traditional answer in the sense, but again, she was super cool, loves sports, super tough as well. And she's pretty much going to be the person who's going to continue to push me on the path that I currently am now. And hopefully I'm famous one day, fingers crossed.
Yes. Okay. So what do you want to remember for?
I want to make a lasting impact. I obviously, like I just said, I want to be famous, but when it comes to Nick and I, what we want to do with the podcast is we want to make a difference, right? So like I said, getting into sports, it's fun work, right? And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And, there are other sports around the world that are more well-known and more watched in their own country. Obviously, like soccer here in the States is getting very, very bigger. You call it football everywhere else in the world. But what Nick and I want to do is ultimately we want to use our podcast as a reference point for a lot of people who are struggling and who don't know where to start. There's not one way in particular to do anything, right? So hopefully with our podcast, It becomes essentially one of the go-to podcasts out there where people who want to hear fun stories about the people that they're watching on TV and in the sports world, not just the athletes, right? The people who do the sports media, the one who hosts the segments, the ones who are doing broadcasting and play-by-play live. We want to make it easier for those people who have no start or have no way of getting into the industry. We want to give them a path. We want to give them the opportunity to listen to people who have been in their shoes before and help them along the way. And, maybe I get wealthy one day. And if I get wealthy one day, then I'll be able to give back and then I can really, really make a lasting impact. But for now, we just want the podcast to grow as much as we possibly can. I think we do really good. And I think because we've done our podcast where most of our almost 200 episodes have been strictly with guests, I think it makes people more inclined or would want to hopefully go to us in the long term to get those interviews for those fun stuff and the professional guides with our podcast as opposed to others.
Okay, great. So, what would you like to say about your guest experience on this show?
So far, it's been good. I appreciate your time so far, Nishant. I think you're asking good questions. Some of my answers have been a little long, but I hope that's okay.
Yeah. How can we support you?
How can I wait?
How can we support you?
How can we support? Okay. So I always like to share and promote the podcast, right? So I did that before. What you could do on your end is if you have anybody, any friends, any family who really like sports, especially you like sports, here in the United States. I don't know where you're from. Are you here right now in the States or are you elsewhere?
So, basically, right now I'm living in India.
You are living in India. Okay. So, like I said, we're on two different sides of the world. But if you do like sports, if you do like any of the traditional North American of the four sports that we promote here, so if you like baseball, football, basketball, hockey, if you like other sports, right? You like golf, tennis, soccer. Like I said, we've had people on our show who covered rugby. We've had people on our show who've, kind of covered the secondary sports that are secondary here that are major, elsewhere in the world. But if you have any family and friends back at home, who like that or like American culture or stuff like that, tell them to check out the podcast. I think you guys would be really, happy with it. Maybe you won't recognize every single name there, but I'm sure there are some names you'll recognize. Nick and I are huge fans of pro wrestling too, so we're huge fans of WWE and the other companies here that are popular in North America. So I know pro wrestling and I know WWE is very big in India. It's got a very huge cultural following, and so we're huge wrestling fans too. So we've had WWE guests on as well. So like I said, if you know anybody who in any way is interested in that, please by all means tell them the name of the podcast as you know them, right? Tell them you can find us on every major platform. Like I said before, it was Apple, Spotify, iHeart. We're on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, YKIR podcast. You can find us on Instagram as well. So we're on every major platform. We're on Amazon too. So if you go check us out, you can find our links and stuff like that. You'll be able to find all our links in one nice place.
Okay. What's your final word?
Would you do your homework? So what we do on my podcast is I ask the last word. So my co-host Nick, who unfortunately he was busy doing something else, he couldn't join us, but he wanted to tell me to thank you for the opportunity to have me. But what we do is Nick will usually ask his last question, which will be something related directly to the podcast title. And then I say, if you have any last words, if there's anything else you would like to share or promote. So, my last words for you, Nishant, will be I hope you enjoyed my company. I hope you enjoyed my time. I had fun doing this. I hope the way that I answered the questions was sufficient. I hope you got a lot out of this. And I hope that this helped you. And I would like to hopefully help grow my podcast and Nick's podcast and our podcast with this appearance. So appreciative of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph, for sharing your wisdom with us. On the behalf of our community and team, we really appreciate you. Until the next time, all good wishes to you.
Thank you.